Facebook, but we should be good to go now. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, hi, everybody. My name's Julie King, and I'm the Practical Mystic. And I'm right here with my dear friend, Marianne Cardinaire, who's an excellent healer and artist. And so we're going to just be having a nice conversation about Marianne's work and also a little bit about the year. Happy New Year, everybody. And it's also going to be 20, here it is, 2021, another big year of transformation. So I do want to talk a lot about your work, but I also really want to talk, Marianne, a little bit about your story and how you kind of overcame your own, for lack of a better word, your own being stuck. Because you know what's happening right now with this last year, so many people, I mean, everybody's having to make shifts and changes. And I think your story is pretty profound, where you were doing your healing work and then things didn't work out. And then, so I'm going to lead into that and let you take it from there.
Yeah. It was, it's like looking back on it, I kind of realized how profound the experience was for me. And I mean, I got into healing work a while back, and just one thing led to another. Actually, it was my brother who made a comment to me. This was way back, like I think late 80s or right into 1990 about, and he said, "Oh, you should try this out." He had been to an energy healer, and I remember that experience because it was very profound. That was my first experience with energy healing, and feeling myself going from a crumpled up little gnarly ball of energy to just being totally relaxed out. And I started to get really curious about energy. And then also that led me to realize how I had always been really tuned in to the energetics of my system and deeper. So I went into learning. I went to school, a 3-year program, and learned and also studied with some other great people out there from of that generation at that time, and came to Asheville and started my healing practice. And I really loved doing my work. That was the first time I had really come across something that I just enjoyed doing so much, and that really was this felt like this was me. This was my expression, kind of thing. And I did that for about 9 years, but really struggled through maybe the usual stuff that a lot of people struggle through with the financial piece, with making it financially viable for myself, with supporting myself, and as much as I enjoyed it, and people, I was doing good work just from comments from people, and yet there was something that was always getting in the way, preventing me from really coming forward and really doing it fully and completely. And I got really frustrated and just gave up. It's very emotional for me to say that, because it was really about giving up on myself. So I'm just going to take a
That's
pause.
okay. Yeah, take a
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah, it's still very emotional for me to say that, because it was really about giving up on myself
Mhm.
and giving up on the thing that had given me the most joy in my life. And I was really, and I have to say, at the time I was really starting to open up to who I was and understanding who I was, because uh, things were just convoluted before. And there was a lot of push in my family, and well-meaning push to get me to do something viable in life, and this was so radically different from that. So I had to, and so after 9 years, I kind of just gave up, and I was like, just threw my hands up and said, okay. And I went off and worked on yachts for a while. It was great, but it was also crazy when, looking at who I am, really. And it took me I think about 10 years. So it was this 10-year long journey of just everything falling apart on me. Work, uh, home, relationships. I kind of, and I also kind of gave up on everything. And in that 10-year process of trying to just come to terms with just, okay, this is happening and I just have to let go. Letting go is not easy. Also coming from a background of control, patterns of control, it took a while to really be able to let go and get into that trust. And then 5 years ago, I came across a man, Masajati, who really helped me open up and clear those patterns out for myself and get into very deep connection with myself. And so, Julie, last 2 years, I was kicked out of the last place I lived with friends. I've been living on people's couches for a while and just kind of was really nomadic for, well, probably about a year and a half until I finally landed here in North Carolina again. And but still not. I wanted to get to do whatever. Got to the point where I was saying I will do whatever I'm here to do. I even gave up. If I'm not going to do the healing work, that's fine. And getting to that place of just letting go of everything and just releasing it and turning it to the universe. And but looking for that inward thrust, that inward motivation, that passion to come from inside, because I really cannot do anything unless it's there. It's inside of me, and it's just coming out of me. And finally, one morning, I woke up after going to bed, thinking, how am I gonna live my life? What am I gonna do here? And the next morning, I woke up, and it's like I got to do healing work, and it just started coming through so strongly. It's like I will do whatever it takes. And I didn't care. I started doing on sessions on whoever and just offering it for free just because I knew I had to do it. It was like this. It was literally this feeling of do or die. And if I didn't do it, I was going to die. So here I am now, starting up again, and I love it. I love doing my work, and it's just it's me. It's really that source of life for me.
Well, with that, I think also whoever, is able to listen to this maybe can take that and take a little bit of your story, and if there's something they really have a passion for, don't wait. Because this
Yeah,
last year has taught us that go ahead and just get started on it.
yeah. It's that passion and it's that connection for yourself, to who you really are. That's really important. And I think last year especially was really that was a year that really pushed us to do that. And for people who really took those reins, they just had a tremendous growth and blossoming within themselves, and with that passion for what you love in life, for loving yourself and what you love in life, kind of thing.
Well, and I think it's a great story. And it's also, I mean, and I've known you for a long time, and that was a long journey for you
Yeah.
to really just kind of give up and say, I don't know what I'm doing. And it was really difficult. So, along with that, so why don't you talk a little bit about what you're doing now, which you call frequency repatterning, the type of healing work that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about how it works and why someone, how you can help people.
So for me, frequency repatterning, what I do and what I term, that's sort of the term I'm using. So it's
Mhm.
working with frequency at the frequency level, and for me, that's really an extension of what I was doing before. So I really started the healing work with the energy healing. And for me, energy, from my experience, energy is like a kind of a denser form, and frequency is getting to that finer level. And of course, with all the clearing and purifying that I've done for myself, then it's gotten to the level where I can reach more deeply into what makes up a person. So for me, a person, there's the physical person, there's a physical
Mhm.
identity, but then there's this energetic overlay, and beyond that is also what the spirit of the person and the frequency. So the further out you go into from the personal to the divine, you get physical, energetic, then frequency, then that kind of the universal stuff. So for me, what I do now is kind of it's an extension, but it's also a very much more refined work than what I used to do. And let's see, I'm trying to think of what else we're asking. Well, people, why do that? I think what happens is that everything that we have in our physical lives, in our thoughts, in how we are, how we look, what we think, what our issues are, how we experience life, shows up in the non-physical level.
Mhm.
And so the frequency level is a way to work with that and clear that up for people. It can be all sorts of things, any kind of issue. And so I'm one of those people who are able to tap in at that frequency level and see what is termed, distortions that are keeping the person essentially from the purity of their essence. Because as soon
Mhm.
as you come into the purity of your essence, then it's like this alignment with everything that is aligned with you and in existence. And there's just this fullness and this wholeness of being that starts to come through. So it's sort of like you've got all these blobs, and sometimes I'll see it as blobs or as structures or things like that. And information will come through about where that comes from, where that started, what was the starting a point of that, and then being able to tap into that and clear that, whether it's this lifetime or from family lineage or from a past life, because our spirits have been around forever, since the beginning of time. We've been here, and some of us have just accumulated stuff, and it's not been cleared out as we have transitioned out of one life and into the next. So things get piled up, and they're not us. They're really an expression of something that we experienced and that we held on, either because we thought, well, this is the way I'm supposed to be, this is who I am, and it's not. So this work is really about getting to that deep core essence of self and really bringing that forward and living from that place.
I would imagine that it's a lot like peeling the onion because you can start with a point and hence clients can work, have an amazing session of one session, but also the more one works with you, it is peeling the onion to get more and more refined, getting closer and closer to the essence, correct?
Yeah, that's very true. I would agree with that. And also there's peeling the onion in the sense of also there's certain issues that people deal with, like PTSD can be one of them. Control or fear can be other examples. Abuse. Some of those just need to have that one layer at a time, peeled off, because part of the reason for that, and in that context, but also in the context that you were saying of just that slow unfoldment of the self, is that there's a need to develop a strong base within yourself, within that connection to self and that wholeness within, to be able to remove certain layers. And so some layers don't show up until later because there's not enough strength to hold that. Because there are certain issues. If you were to just yank somebody out or just pull it out of somebody, the system would like basically freak out and get to the point where it's freaking out and it pulls right back in, but can also pull back further back from the starting point. And so that can be more damaging. And so sometimes there is that slow process that's needed for that sense of safety and security and inner strength to get to the point. It's like, okay, now we can take off this big chunk here, because now you have the strength to hold that and hold yourself and not get freaked out. I mean, there's the personality level that comes into that. So sometimes, one aspect of that is the pain body, as Eckhart Tolle puts it, and that can just sort of wreak havoc in the system, because it's like trying to control and maintain itself, kind of thing. And so, yeah, that slow unfolding process, and it's fascinating how it all shows up and how each session is so unique and so incredible.
The other interesting part is that you do not have to work in person. As a matter of fact, it seems like it's a little easier sometimes to not be in person.
Yeah, I think so. It's there. There's well, in person. There's always those filters that can come up of you see a person a certain way, and so you have a certain response to them. And at the non-physical level, so I do long distance sessions, but that is easier in some ways, long distance, and not seeing the person visually because uh, you don't need to see them because we're tapping into what is timeless about the person and in that timeless space of being of just beingness and everything shows up there. So there sometimes there can be a little bit of practice to shift into that space even when you're seeing someone. So I can do it with seeing someone, but it's also for the person to not to kind of get more into their own space when they're not looking at someone else.
I agree with you. I do sessions with a different kind of work with people, and I prefer if I'm doing it on the phone not to have a visual because it feels cleaner in a sense, and I'm the energy flows
Yeah,
much easier because there's no preconceived idea or there's no attachment to the visuals. So I find that work a lot easier too. So I kind of agree with you with that. I know a lot of people associate healing so much with hands on. And I think that that's something that is in our vernacular and in our vocabulary. When we think about healing, more often than not, it's like you go somewhere and somebody puts their hands on you.
yeah,
Even
that's true.
energy healing,
Yeah.
even if it's Reiki or whatever, where they're not necessarily touching you, it's an in person thing. So, have you had any clients have to make leaps to do the long distance?
There's yeah. Sometimes there's a little bit of the sleep, especially when I said, "Okay, we don't need to." We'll just turn the camera off. It's just like, "Oh, really? Oh, gosh!" So there's at first a little bit of adjustment that can happen with some people, but so far, most of the people I've worked with are just kind of like, okay, and they just kind of turn turn themselves over to me and say, yeah, whatever. But yeah, sometimes it is there is a little bit of that transition because we're so locked into the physical and as that being the primary reality, and in truth, that's the illusion. I mean, it's called a Maya for a reason because this isn't the real reality. The real reality is something so much bigger, um, and that we really are starting to step into more. And it'll be interesting to see by the end of the year where we've come with that because that's a really big piece that's starting to come through. Is that deeper truth of existence and who we are that's coming through. So yeah, there can be a little bit of an adjustment, and but yeah, then people just like, okay, yeah, whatever. In the end, it's about the results people get and how they feel. Uh, that's more important than seeing the person or not seeing them.
Is there any particular case without divulging personal information, that you can't divulge that
Uh-huh.
you
Yeah.
give that's an example of an experience that someone had that just so people listening can get an idea
Yes,
of
yes.
what works?
So yeah, and one thing, one of the things that I do with people, one of that's big in how I work is that I give homework, but so the homework could be in session too, is really guiding the person to do it themselves. There's a certain amount that I do, and it depends on the session, but like recently I did a session on somebody and we were really working with PTSD. And for me, PTSD is that trauma of incarnating. I think every human being has PTSD from incarnating because basically for most of us or just about everybody, I think it's been such a dramatic experience and sometimes very traumatic. Um, so it was interesting because that session was in essence just holding the space for her, for this person, and letting this person feel comfortable with where they were at and get used to sitting still in that beingness. Because everybody also, I think, is you go through that place, and also it happens a lot. Throughout the day, we get on the computer and then we're kind of all over the place. Of just coming into that beingness can be really hard, especially think it's maybe more for mental people, but it'll show up differently for more
Mhm.
like physically oriented people. And so just holding the space and really just bringing in those frequencies of safety and neutrality for her, and just allowing her to kind of get used to that and relax into that, and then just and getting that to click into place, and also getting her to, so kind of the more of the guided part was like having her focus on herself and then helping her to hold that. And as a person holds their center and their connection to themselves and their core, what happens is that it's like, the way I see it, it's like it starts to glow, and this glow starts to expand out. And because I can track her, because I can see what's going on, and I've learned to track through my energy work, getting her to complete the process so that it's completely done. So it gets to that place where it's like locked into the system, and it's okay, the system's got it now. Sometimes, like for grounding, sometimes what happens at beginning of sessions is that we think we're grounded, and it feels grounded because we're kind of like in there, connected to the earth. And then it's no, let's go a little deeper because we're only halfway there. And then boom, and then you can feel the difference.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a neat experience. Other examples are, uh, just the person shows up and in the space. So I intentionally create the space beforehand, uh, for this nice space for people to come into the healing. And then even before I get on the session, a lot of times they show up, their spirit is there waiting for this, because your spirit, as soon as you sign up for a session, or even before you do that, your spirit is going, okay, we're going to do this. By the way, and then it comes into your consciousness, and then you do it. And then I can tell where the person's at, and I'm real good at picking up on, especially at that mental level, and stuff. And so it might show up for me, like it might show up like there's this blob in front of the person around, some area of their body. And then it's just being in that stillness and being in that state of beingness, in that timeless space. The information is there, and it's about being able to receive it and hear it and know it, and then bringing it up. Sometimes there's a little bit of a interpretation thing, because it's like, okay, this feels like, grandma. It's like a female kind of energy, and it turns out, well, it was the father or something, because um, a lot of men have can run on female frequencies, and women will run on masculine frequencies. So the behavior is showing up as something other than that. But yeah, and just feeling, going back in time, and it's just really interesting when you follow that thread where it takes you, what the story is. Sometimes we go into the story. Sometimes it's like, no, we're not going to get into that, because then possibly the person is just going to get attached to that in their heads and their minds, and start wanting too much information and hold on to that instead of letting it go. And that it's a question of just flipping out those frequencies, or moving them out, shifting them out, and getting that person to really connect with that core essence of themselves and who they are. And that in itself will clear everything.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's really hard for us to hold that for ourselves. And so having somebody hold the space for us and help us, guide us through to that. I mean, for me, in essence, that's my work, is holding that space for that person, and getting them to connect with themselves, because that's the only thing you really need in life. And being in that this present moment, connected to yourself, that's the most important thing.
Is there like a certain amount of, like sessions, or is it also individual? In other words,
Yes.
yeah, yes, okay.
Yes. I get what you're asking. Yeah. So it can go both ways. It can be, somebody comes for a session once and they get that connection, and that's it. And I may never see them again, and they go off and they work with somebody else, or they go off on their own. They're fine.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's regular sessions. I tread very lightly on telling people what to do, what they need. sometimes I might make a suggestion saying, with what's going on, it'd be good to do regular sessions or more, or another session or something. But I really tread lightly on that because of the position I'm in, and people have a tendency to uh, put you on that platform, or can. Not everybody does, but there can be this tendency of like, you're the holy one, you're the God, you know everything. And for me, it's really about that person coming in connection with themselves and finding that direction within themselves. And I have said to some people, it's like, who have asked me that question, is as well, should we do regular sessions? Like, no, sit back, take it in, absorb it, integrate the work, and let yourself feel from within. It's time for another session.
Mhm.
And then other people I have said, it would be good if we do this regularly. And regularly can be once a week or once a month or once a year. And the thing about regular, having kind of that frame of reference, is that your spirit knows you're going to have another session.
Mhm.
Stuff comes up. and and
Right.
and so it will bring to the forefront, okay, we're going to have a session coming up. Time to bring up the stuff, and more, and so another layer will come up. So there's the regularity sometimes that can be nice, but otherwise, it's really about finding your way in this and what's right for you. So I that's my bottom line, really. It's
I
not good for marketing and advertising, but for me, it's more important about doing what is right, doing the healing work for the person, not for me.
I kind of work the same way with my clients, and when I teach people how to connect um, with their with themselves, their inner selves, whatever you want to call it, I do something very similar, where I say make an appointment with the divine, or whatever you want to call it, because and if you have an appointment, like let's say once a week at 6 o'clock a Tuesday afternoon in a special chair, it's just like you're talking about, your spirit or whatever says, oh, the appointment is going to be at that time, and things start to happen because
Right.
you've made the appointment. And if you do that consistently, progress goes very much more quickly, and it's easier to have a sense of connection and to expand in your spiritual and whatever we're working on, spiritual journey or something. So those appointments with destiny, for lack of a better word, I think are really important. And that can be a great way to work with people. So I do some of the same thing, and it is different, I think, for everyone. It's you can't
Yeah.
cookie cutter this sort of work.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not a
no,
cookie cutter kind of thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's definitely not cookie cutter. Every
Yeah.
single session is different. And that's why, that's part of what I love this work, and that's kind of the creative aspect of this work, is just showing up. It's sort of like painting, like I do watercolor a little bit. I haven't done it for a while, but that drawing painting thing is, you start with that blank canvas. And so it's that person showing up for the session. And what's going to happen? It's like, well, you really start in that moment and see where they're at in that moment, and then just follow it. It's follow. It's really about following the person, their spirit, and what they're bringing to the table, what they're showing. They're saying their spirit is going like, okay, over here, we got to work on this piece. Boom, and so we work on that piece. So it's really fun. It's definitely not about me deciding what happens, and even what tools to use. I mean, I've learned a lot of practical tools over
Mhm.
the time here, and stuff that I can teach people, show people, and have them do on their own, as well as in session. But it's like, you put all of that aside. You really need to come into that present moment, that person, where they are in the present moment, even if you've seen them 5,000 times for the same issue. It's all about where they're at right now in this moment relative to that issue, but also relative to themselves, and what unfolds from that.
Interesting. It's so much fun to work with people and to help people in their transformation.
Yeah, this is
I
this is
think,
really, oh, it is. It's really, I love this work. And one of the reasons I love it so much is because it's this full expression of myself that comes through. in the work that I do. And if I can guarantee anything, the one thing I can guarantee people is that I will come to the table. I will come to each session with the same passion that and drive and dedication that I had to take myself through this journey, to get to where I am now, because I haven't given up. I mean, I kind of did 10 years ago, but then I think that needed to happen to just
Mhm.
break apart all the things that were in my way, all the conditioning that I had, and all the habits that I had, all the beliefs that I had about myself, especially, but even about existence, about just and it's beliefs, it's conditioning that we don't realize we have, but that come in because we live with people, we live in a society, we live in a community, however big you want to see that community, but there, and it's there, it impacts us, and also
Absolutely.
just from past lives, it's just there, and so that's for me, this is my work, so this is my passion, this is what I love to do, and like you said, it's always amazing what shows up. It's this the greatest adventure I can think of.
Well, that's kind of fun. So, do you have anything? Are there any kinds of people who, like, if someone, do you work on everybody that calls you, or are there some people that maybe you would have to turn away, for lack of a better?
Yeah, for who are maybe not quite ready for this work. Yeah, and I'm open to working with anybody, but I think the bottom line, the people who get the most out of this is that there's kind of different components to that.
Mhm.
Is first of all, if people come for a session and they just want to clear the stuff and just kind of get back to their life, and I just want to get this out of the way and then everything will be fine. Yeah, it's not going to work, because that's not how it works.
Mhm.
If this is getting in the way of you, if you've got this thing here, it's saying, you need to like just drop everything, connect with yourself. So it's people who are looking for that deeper connection with themselves, deeper understanding of who they are, who want something more for themselves and their lives, and you could possibly be having everything be fine with your life, and everything has fallen into place. You've got a great relationship, you've got a great house, you've got, everything's kind of there for you, but that inner longing, is like there's something more there.
Mhm.
So there's a whole kind of variety, but I think at the bottom line is people who are really kind of searching, and are willing to take responsibility for themselves, and are willing to see that what happens to them is they are part of that, what happens to them. It's
Okay.
not something outside of them that's taking place that's impacting them. It's not someone outside of them. It's like, well, there's that piece, but what am I doing
Mhm.
that's bringing this through, that's contributing to this?
So you wouldn't probably be a good person to work with if someone comes in with a real strong victim kind of mentality, unless they're ready to work with it, right?
Exactly. I was just about to say, yes. If they see that and they acknowledge it, and they kind of realize it at some level, even if they're struggling with it,
Mhm.
but if there's that kind of grain of realization of like, I need to look at this. And it's not necessarily going to be easy, because there's a lot of things that we want to see, a lot of ways we want to see ourselves, that we want ways, what we want to believe about ourselves,
Mhm.
that may not be correct and may not be in our highest interest, that is blocking us. And moving through that, I can guarantee, when you get moving through that, coming into that deeper connection of yourself, it is going to be so phenomenal that you're going to be thinking, it's like, why in the hell was I holding on to that?
Mhm.
Because this feels so much better. It feels so much fuller. You have so much more strength and brilliance in yourself, kind of thing. So that's yeah, you know.
I think that's wonderful. It's so let's see what else we can say about that. How do you want people to connect with you for one
Well,
book?
my websites, I've got my website there, my unboundedandfree.com. It's in process. We're close to having it go live, so I'm real excited about that. But I'm also on Facebook. Until my website goes up, people are welcome to reach out to me on Messenger and just say, "Hey, I'm interested. Tell me more."
Hmm.
Even if it's just more information, that's fine because that's part of what I do. It's about educating people and helping them to understand what life is all about. And so sometimes just a conversation is enough for something to just click for somebody, and they don't necessarily need a session, but having a session is fantastic experience. Um,
I can attest to that. I've had one of your sessions recently, so it was
yeah.
quite good. Yes, unwound some things for me.
Yeah. So until then, yes, it's kind of via Facebook, or if you're on Instagram, you're following me or something. Yeah. Um, and yeah, and this is an incredible ride. So it's like I really want people to have that sense for themselves, whether they work for me or anybody they work with,
Mhm.
to really get into that connection with yourself and to let go of everything that you think you are, because what you are is so much more amazing and incredible, and really to embrace that and to move past those pieces like self-worth. We think we have a lot of self-worth, and then when it comes to like really facing who you truly are and the brilliance that you hold within
Yes.
yourself, that self-worth goes, really, I don't think so. It's like right there, boom, let's wipe that one out, because that's also keeping you from having the
Mhm.
life that you want to have. So it goes hand in hand. What you're holding on about yourself is impacting your life and what you can have in your life, and how you can live your life and experience it, because it's not about what's happening out there. And people have been really stressed out with this past year, but that's just something that's happening out there. How you respond to that is you is and you don't have to be affected by. You have to pay attention, but you don't have to be affected by that and like go all bonkers and worried and all over the place. No, come into yourself, come into that core of who you are and really connect with that. And this is the most brilliant, amazing journey you can have. And this is what you're here for on earth, is to come in, to really be yourself, to connect, to discover that, and open up to it even more.
The other thing I do want to bring up that someone it just popped into my brain is that if to kind of highlight the fact that the kind of work you do and some of the way that the way that we're talking is not based on a religion. It
Right.
is maybe some spiritual concepts, but it doesn't have anything to do with religion. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
important to bring that
absolutely
up,
not.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I think, the reason that we instantly associate religion with the word spirit
Mhm.
is because there have been control factors that have come in through, very strong control factors that have come in through religion, that we're in the process of breaking out of. This is simply kind of just this is facts, guys. I mean, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not a fact. The radio waves you can't see, and they're a fact for you. So get over it. So, but it's like there is this non-physical aspect, and so physics is starting to, or it's been for a little bit, getting into that exploration of what that is. We can't see it, but we sure as hell can feel it. Some people can see it.
Mhm.
I see a lot of information in my internal vision, not with my physical eyes, but it's there. And so we call it spirit. It's just a term, higher self. There's a lot of terms out there. Unfortunately, it's sometimes it can be a little challenging to use because there's a lot of associations made with like the word soul. There's so much religious connotation to that that is false in because of the way it's been used to control and dominate people and keep them from connecting with themselves.
Mhm.
So this is beyond religion. It's just this is what life is.
And the very in the Aramaic word for soul, if I'm remembering correctly, I studied the first three chapters of Genesis with Rocco Errico. I believe that Aramaic for soul really means self.
Mm.
And so, a lot of us in the Western world grew up, Judeo Christian. And so, all of these ancient writings have been taken from the original, which was Aramaic and then into Greek and then Roman and all of this other stuff. So then the words don't have the original meanings anyway. So soul meant self.
Yes, and translation is difficult. There's a lot gets lost in translation, and if we could get into the essence, feeling the essence of the word, and that gets back to feeling the essence of ourselves, connecting to that essence, because that's the truth. That's where the truth lies. It's not in that translation. It's like, well, I'm kind of feeling it that way. It says, yeah, but that's not the whole context of the word. And so translations can be, and yes, we have lost a lot in translation, and kind of patching, wisdom, knowledge gets lost very easily. And I think that's an important piece to remember, and just to keep that open mind. I think the one caveat I have for in terms of keeping an open mind is to, because I this has come up for me recently, is what, and I had an Instagram post on it, with a spelling error, but it's things. There's a lot of things that illuminate out there, but they're not pure necessarily. All that illuminates is not pure, and I did have a run-in with that recently. So if you're not guided to connect with yourself, to the truth of who you are, I would hesitate with that. And if somebody's not taking you there, as illuminated as they look, as good as the words sound, if you're not connecting with yourself, with your truth, your power, your purity, I would say run the other way. Um, or just, and there's a need for caution, because right now there's a lot of things that are shifting around, and there's a lot of things that are kind of being tossed up. We're going through a big clearing process still, and until there's more of that purity in existence, we really have to hold on to our own purity, our essence, and cherish that, and not let that go for anything.
I agree with you. And this is really a year, continuing year of 2020 was the year of transformation. 2021 is a continuation, a little chaotic, but it's a fabulous time to make a lot of changes and to really become deeper into who we truly are. So perfect time.
Yes, absolutely.
Everything's changing whether we want it to or not. So
Yeah, and I want to stress again how important that purity is for me, in doing my work. I cannot do my work and help people, awaken people and help them grow in their own strength, if I don't have that purity within myself. It doesn't advance me to take advantage of somebody and suck on them and use them to advance myself. That doesn't work, because we are basically in a closed system. What happens at one end happens at the other. So it's like we can't run away from that kind of stuff. And we really need to. The only way we can all ascend and move forward and expand and come into that brilliance of existence that is here for us is to come into our own brilliance and help others come into that own brilliance and strength for themselves.
well, agree with you totally. Yay!
Yay.
Well, I
Yes.
don't know if I have any other questions. It's been about 45 minutes. Is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Um,
I think we've covered a
I
lot.
think that's really good. I really want to thank you, Julie, for
Sure.
this interview. It's been really fun. And what I'll do, I see there are some people watching, so you're welcome to bow out, and I will stay on for a little longer. And if people have questions, I will try this. I haven't tried this yet, but if you just type in the chat, and I'll see if it comes through. That'll be a good test for me, and I'm happy to answer other questions or just chat with people who are watching online. So. Thank you again, Julie, and
Okay, thanks.
yes,
And I don't know how to get off of here. Oh, leave.
I get you off, and so yeah, check out Julie. She's a wonderful person, and the Practical Mystic. She's very good with what she does. So thank you again, Julie.
Thanks. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, so if there's anybody who either has a question or a comment or Yeah, just thoughts you want to share. I will give this a try and see if somebody types in a comment. It will show up on the chat on my end. I haven't tried this out yet. So, and thank you for showing up live or post facto. This was really a really nice experience for me. I'm not used to talking about my work and what I do and myself, but I hope that was inspirational for people. So comments, yeah, and I will. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy the link. If anybody wants to actually join me in the studio, let's see what happens where this shows up. Oh, that just showed up. Yeah, Facebook. That should be on YouTube. Oh, maybe that's going on YouTube. Let me try. Oh, Facebook. I'm sorry, Facebook. This is read only. So that's on my YouTube channel. I'm still learning technology. I may be savvy in the frequency and energetic technology, but the physical technology, not quite there yet. It looks like that only went to YouTube. So that's a good check for me for next time I do this. So if you can either hop over to YouTube, or unfortunately, maybe we'll just have to call it a day then. I'll pause. I'll wait a little bit just to see in case there's anybody who wants to try to go into YouTube, my YouTube channel, which is just under my name, Marianne Cardinaire. All right, you know what? I'm gonna do this another time and just have live questions and with explorations with Marianne. That might be a fun thing to do once in a while on Facebook and YouTube, and just have people join in. I can have people come into the studio and just chat with me and switch around. So, and I will try to figure out this chat chat function. You're all sitting there. I'm like talking to myself, and I can see that there's people watching. This is so funny. So, anyways, thank you all for joining in, and we will come. Maybe we'll do this again, but just a chat one directly with viewers. So, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you in the ethers or in person somewhere. Bye bye.